James Cameron's upcoming Avatar sequel is among the most anticipated films set to come out this year. But if it doesn't make big numbers, it will be a major failure. Today we'll discuss the high expectations resting on the release of Cameron's next film, and why money is the biggest factor that will ensure it's a success or failure. Keep watching to know more. First things first, without profit, the Avatar sequel is on the road to failure. The 2009 Avatar movie might have had many re-releases, but it has been among the most successful box office release yet. The film made $2.93 billion and set the bar way higher than usual for its sequel. Sequels very rarely live up to the success of their original movie, and when a film has been as financially successful as the first Avatar film, the odds are higher than usual for failure. It's been 13 years since the first movie came out, and the film scene has considerably changed since then. After going through the COVID pandemic, attitudes toward films and their performance generally have shifted, so the important question persists. Can Avatar 2 make enough profit? Avatar: The Way of Water will largely dominate the theaters in its year of release and will need to be financially successful enough to hold a chance. The film has a huge budget of $250 million, making it among the priciest films ever made. There have only been around 20 films around that scale so far. To put things in perspective, the first Avatar film is number 24th on the most expensive films ever made. James Cameron usually has good success with his films. After all, his previous two releases both became two of the most successful films of all time. There's cause for concern for this film because it has a massive budget and would be a bad financial decision if it doesn't earn back enough money. Next, Avatar: Way of Water needs to earn back its budget. James Cameron calls the Avatar: Way of Water budget expensive and refrains from giving an exact number. To be successful, the film must be either the third or the fourth highest grossing film of all time. $250 million is only an estimate of the money used to make the Avatar sequel. If the film doesn't make back the money and profits, it will be counted among the worst financial decisions ever made for a film. Currently on the charts, Cameron already has two movies making it big, Avatar and Titanic. While Avatar remains one of the top grossing movies of all time, Titanic comes in third. For Avatar: The Way of Water to make a mark, it must beat Star Wars: The Force Awakens and its $2.07 billion slot, or Avengers: Infinity War's $2.05 billion slot. That's a lot of pressure and expectations resting on the film before its release. One of the reasons why it is believed the sequel will perform less well than the last movie is that the technology that made it so popular is now common. The 3D aspect of the film made it unique in 2009, but now it's so common that the film might need help to stand out. The director is notorious for making the largest scale movies of all time. Most of his films have been high-budget releases and have earned back their budgets in huge ways. But since he's pushing the limit with his upcoming film, only time will tell of its success. Now, let's discuss why Avatar 2's budget may not tell the whole story. You must be thinking, why on earth is the second Avatar film so expensive, and why does it need to be? Well, the answer may be more complex than you expect. For starters, the film costs a fortune because the technology used to make the film is generally rather expensive. The first Avatar film used 3D technology in a way that was never seen before. Cameron's film used computer-generated VFX in a way that changed the game forever. The director pushed the limits with his first film, so it's no surprise he chose to do the same for the sequel. Avatar: The Way of Water needed more money because more specialized VFX work was required to fulfill the director's ambition. The most consuming aspect was depicting water in the upcoming film, and the technology needed to achieve it artfully. Despite the extremely high budget, Avatar 2 is not the only thing benefiting from the money. 4 other Avatar sequels have been approved for production. This time they won't be taking 13 years. This means that the cost needed to acquire new technology will be used in not just one film, but also 4 other sequels that will come after it. Since the technology will be paid for in Avatar: The Way of Water, the consequent sequels will cost a little cheaper and will be easier to make. Currently, the other sequels are already under production and will absorb a part of the overhead costs from the upcoming film. Coming up, Avatar: The Way of Water is releasing in a post-pandemic world. It's important to note that the next Avatar film will be released in a post-pandemic time when a lot has changed. People have almost forgotten what going to the theaters for long films was like. Cameron acknowledges that things have changed since he first wrote the film, but he's hopeful that this would remind people what it's like to go to the cinema again. This film could give them back the experience they lost out on during the pandemic. While the pandemic affected people going to the movies, releases like Top Gun, Maverick, and Spider-Man: No Way Home managed to get huge turnouts and made substantial profits. Considering the success of those films, there's hope for The Way of Water to find its audience. The trailer alone acquired 148 million views in only 24 hours, which is a subtle indication that people are still curious about the film and may even be anticipating seeing the film. The next Avatar movie is roughly 3 or more hours. That's a rather long film, and while once that was a norm, for today's audiences that might be a stretch. While the odds are high against the success of the upcoming film, nothing can be said about whether or not it will swim or sink. It has, however, secured a release in China, thanks to Disney and its diplomacy in China. Regulators have cleared the movie, and the country's audiences are highly anticipating the film. Considering the past success of Avatar, Chinese audiences may very well ensure the profits of its sequel. Moving on, Avatar will dominate the box office during the holiday season. Avatar: The Way of Water is one of the few major releases lined up for December and is set to release on the 16th of December. It's one of the most important upcoming movies because it's a sequel to one of the highest-grossing films in history. Naturally, expectations for it are equally high. Since the Avatar sequel will dominate the holiday season, you might wonder if any other releases are coming out around the same time. Besides Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is a sequel to the Shrek franchise, there are only some notable names. Films for adults made especially for the holiday season appear to be losing their appeal, so all hopes are banked on movies like Avatar: The Way of Water and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish to rope in larger audiences of all age groups. While other releases are also coming up this holiday season, the one with the biggest budget yet is only the sequel to Avatar. It seems all major releases want to steer clear of Cameron's upcoming sequel. Avatar: The Way of Water is set to clean sweep the theaters with its release, considering how the movie will have such little opposition and a broader crowd to attract. Statistics show that family-friendly films really win crowds during holiday seasons because children and adults can enjoy them together. It's been 13 years since the first Avatar film. If the number of viewers in the sequel's trailer means anything, they hint that interest in Pandora's world is at an all-time high. Next, these films will be released after Avatar: The Way of Water. While Avatar: The Way of Water is among the most hyped releases this holiday season, it is not the only film you can look out for at the end of this year. Damien Chazelle's ode to the Roaring Twenties, Babylon, is lined up to release soon, and Sony's biopic of Whitney Houston called I Want to Dance with Somebody. While excitement is also alive for those two titles, Avatar: The Way of Water is the only film that families can watch and therefore has a larger audience to attract. While Babylon also appears to be interesting to watch, only a few people will find interest in the 1920s because a lot has changed since then, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea. Avatar: The Way of Water is expected to take over not only the holiday season, but also well into the next year because of how larger-than-life it's made out to be. According to polls on the internet, Gen Z is planning to watch 3 releases this December, and among them is Avatar: The Way of Water, Violent Night, Babylon, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This means people are in the mood to hit theaters this holiday season and watch major releases. As populations come out of the COVID pandemic, moviegoing is on an exponential increase. This December will be a good season for movies. Finally, Avatar: The Way of Water is among the only 3 Hollywood films to release in China. Releasing a film in China is harder than it looks. Foreign films get rejected left and right for various reasons. Films like the recent Black Panther: Wakanda Forever were denied a release, despite it being one of the most anticipated films of this year. LGBTQIA mentions were what got the film's release denied, among other things, but the Avatar sequel made history. Avatar 2 will enjoy a same-day release in China, which is a smart move for the movie because the first film had been especially popular with Chinese audiences. According to reports, the Avatar sequel is among the very few movies to release in the country. Since the first film swept audiences off their feet, it's only fitting that the sequel got the chance to be released in the country. The first Avatar film surpassed Cameron's beloved film Titanic in its profits, so hopes are high for the sequel. That's a wrap for this video. Would Avatar 2 be a hit? Let us know in the comments below. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.